Hi there, this is a fluff bite. Hi all little and big bites alike. Uh, we finally have a capture card so we can uh, do Switch stuff. And we wanted to talk while giving you a tour of our island, I guess. Um, Recently, one of our favorite anitubers came out as trans, and uh, we just found out yesterday, and it was super endearing because she actually seen one of her videos had really pushed us into making YouTube content again when we had given up when we had made our normie channel and when that didn't work out. And as we're sure a lot of people can identify with, we have a hard time finishing projects. We think of a lot of things we could do, and it's like all these great ideas, and then maybe we start and but we have like a bunch of projects, a bunch of Word files with half-written books and whatnot. And Digine had did a video talking about her process, and we had just known at that point, and this was like a couple months ago, that she's also on the spectrum and made videos about that as well that we were really interested in, somewhat more than the general normal anime content. I'm running away from the villagers. I haven't seen them yet today. And just kind of the thing of giving yourself a time limit and just doing it and not fretting about if it's perfect, which is like technically common advice, but it was also like coming from a content creator that makes a lot of content, and especially if the content creator is a regular fixture in your life, you might feel that like, oh, this person is really successful. They're on top of stuff. You know, you only see as much as a person allows you to see of them on the internet, right? And so hearing that from her really made us go, well, I mean, maybe we could try to fail upwards, I guess. Like, be okay, like, sucking at first. And it wasn't the only influence on us, but it was the thing that made us think about it again. And we started making content after that, and I'd be hard pressed to say that our content was, like, quality-wise, hadn't started in that great a place, at least in terms of audio. But we were really struggling with learning how to use editing programs again after so long. And what was really cool about her coming out for us was that we were so surprised about it. Like, you can't always guess when someone's trans. It's very personal. And sometimes the person has issues because of gender variance, or like kind of like anything that isn't necessarily widespread societally. Widespread societally accepted. And so, you know, you can sometimes you're careful with, you know, exploring certain parts of yourself or telling people about certain parts of yourself. And I think that her deciding to be open about being trans and her content, especially when this is the first time we've actually seen a content creator come out, like, not necessarily in real time, but while we were following them, because any content creators that we've seen or that we follow before who are trans, we were introduced to them after they came out, and if they have videos before they transition, then like we may have watched those, but like that's always like retrospective. But we've been following DigiName for a long time, for like several years, and actually didn't start following her till after we came out, so that's an interesting dynamic. And in the same way that we're kind of like, I guess, impressed by her content, her talking about her gender journey and how like she came to think about certain things, and how like there are certain sides of her that you don't see in her content that would have clued people in, but didn't because they weren't shown. But you know, she's comfortable living her life, not including those things, which, you know, in a way is kind of funny because we are like open about so many things on the channel that like we know that not everyone would be. I mean, we've even seen people who are like being anonymous in like ADBL circles, being like, oh, like I have like a little bit of fame, or I'm famous or whatever, I can't reveal who I am or whatever, but you know, if anyone found out about this, my career will be ruined and stuff like that. And there's even times where you might get an inkling of, oh, this person might be into this, just by like watching someone for long enough and like knowing enough about like common tales or whatever, which is the thing that would be, oh, maybe this person's trans. But Dejune said that she would expect her trans audience to know. Not to know, but to have guessed, because she's really trans positive and stuff. And we didn't know that she was really trans positive or really queer positive either. Like, it wasn't content that she did that we ever ran into, which is funny because regardless of the freaking creator, someone that like is in our sphere would do queer content or does queer content, we would think we would pay attention. But then we also remember we were avoiding her content for a while because we were a little bit worried that she wasn't that way, because sometimes when you're exposed to so much like negativeness, or what you feel is negativeness or invalidness, like especially casually, it's like, you know, I already deal with this enough in my real life. I don't want to deal with it when I'm, you know, watching YouTube, essentially. And it was like saying something that like made us think of gender essentialism and, you know, biological sets or whatever, and it was just like, I don't know, maybe I just need to only watch a little bit as a treat. And the funny part was that in coming out as trans, like it kind of is like, oh, like this is things that was like, this is a process, right? Like just like anyone, or just like us, like not everyone starts out like having all the information. She says in her video that she would have come to understand herself sooner if she had done more information about like being trans. And it's like, well, that happens. I mean, we were friends with several trans people before we came out, even before we came out to ourselves, before we even knew. And it was like, people can be trans. Not me though. But trans people are really cool. And in that we've been trans for like almost 5 years now, or I'd say out for 5 years now. It's like really refreshing sometimes to see someone come out and be so confident about it. And I mean, I guess as sort of a public figure, you kind of have to be, and it's better to not be like timid about the things that you are or that you believe in, because if you exude the air of, oh, this isn't an okay thing to be, or I'm ashamed of this thing, chances are the person's going to pick up on that and they're going to be like, well, maybe this is something to deride. I don't think I have enough money to commission Flick. Or is it Bugs? I've actually never commissioned Flick. Oh, just that it doesn't charge bells. I don't have a bug on me, so can't do that yet. So part of the reason we were surprised about her coming out was that essentially we had made assumptions because of not just how we got introduced to her content, but like the persona that she put on for her content. And we didn't see that person or that character as sensitive. We saw that person as like overly logical. What she says is like a way that is like that she has processed to communicate with people about the things, but not actually the way that she thinks. And having that window into like that behavior is really eye-opening, because even as someone who is like out and authentic and stuff, there are parts of ourselves that we don't share as a content creator still, obviously, but also stuff that we might, if there is other stuff that would be relevant to include or relevant to inform our content, if that's something that like changes. And we're still learning a lot, pretty much every week, about what we're doing. We're kind of flying by the seat of our diaper, and it is kind of exhilarating, and I guess we've been paying attention to content creators in a different way now, especially because we've been looking at YouTube videos and stuff for so long that we don't have a slingshot, that there was like tips and stuff that we picked up on from a long time ago, and then we started watching some folks' videos again advising about content again, and like, you know, what limits are set and how to like not just be successful or try to be, but like what expectations you should set for yourself too. And it was kind of part of that like big huge well of information that we soaked like a sponge that we didn't think we were going to use. Just like when you, I don't know, go through an entire encyclopedia just for fun and go, okay, I know all these things with E in it, but I don't think that it's going to be useful in my daily life that much. And we're trying to expand some of the stuff we talk about, because we realize that we haven't been talking about anime, and we want to talk about anime more. And Disney has definitely been a big influence on our way we think about a certain type of intersectionality, because of her having a whole like comprehensive theory on like autism and like how a person's autism can be reflected in the content that they watch, and what that content would look like depending on the different levels of being autistic. And at first it sounded like a dumb meme on the surface, and like being an autistic person and being very much interested in like how people think, because it helps us communicate, obviously. and liking memes anyway. It was like, okay, let's look at this, and it was like, oh shit, this is like actually really, actually really makes sense to think that this will apply, and like I couldn't exactly chart myself exactly, oh, I'm exactly right here, but it's like, oh yeah, that's why I like these shows and these shows, and we wanted to make a video about it. It was supposed to be our first video for this channel, but we kept pushing it back because we wanted to make it perfect, and it ended up turning out okay that we didn't, considering, well, we mentioned it in this video, and the sky's the limit, right? But I think part of the thing with like imposter syndrome and like not thinking you're good enough and like talking yourself down and procrastinating so much that you don't do something, and I'm a bad person, I'm avoiding my friends. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Wow, you followed me all the way here. You're happy to see me. Fudge. See, we hadn't played Animal Crossing in like a month or more because we were really sad. And we didn't want to play it before we could capture it, because even if we didn't know we were going to use the footage for a video, it was just kind of like, we know we're going to have an emotional reaction to it, and we wanted to remember it, I guess, because we're trying to remind ourselves of how much we can enjoy games, because sometimes we just spend time thinking about doing something we want instead of doing something we want, you know? So, oh, I got a new a thingy. I can now be distressed. Thank you. Thank you for giving me distress. That's so awesome. Alright, so I guess moving on, there's this thing about like alienation that we thought was relevant when we were looking at her recent video where she came out, because in talking about like how she denied like being a woman, and like also like was thoroughly investigating that she wasn't in identifying as a woman, like reducing womanhood, right, to just like, you know, like stereotypes or like things that like are quote unquote common signifiers. And it's actually interesting because it reminded us of when we first started investigating our plurality, because we heard someone talking about it on Twitter, and we had never heard the word before. We knew what DID was. We even had a friend already that had DID, but like this one way of looking at it was kind of different. And when we got the explanation for it, we immediately had to investigate, especially because it resonated with us. Is this like some sort of looking, like reducing DID into something, especially because DID has a history of being like fetishized and stuff, like the movie Split, for example. And when we found out that it's also kind of like people identify as plural, a lot of people also would fall under having DID who identify as plural. And there's like a whole community around like mutual support and like understanding your system and functioning in a good way, and no one's discouraged from like, you know, talking to a medical professional. And there's like all this other stuff we get into about it, but to be honest, it was just like sometimes you don't feel like you have the right to claim an identity, and you want to make sure that you're respecting people. And even more so than the gender stuff and feeling in common with her with gender stuff, it was like that kind of notion of like making sure, but also like feeling very validating yourself. And we think because of how logic thinking we thought she was, on top of the fact that, you know, at one point watching a video of hers, she was talking about gender in a way that we thought was like that we thought was like regressive, you know. It comes as a super surprise, like we're like 20 minutes into a video and it's like feeling like this definitely this person is coming out as trans, this is what's happening in this video, but it's like, but they haven't said it yet, so I can't jump the gun. It might just be I'm very in touch with my femininity and I never allowed myself to fully like these things or whatever. And it's like, that doesn't mean trans. Like, yeah, it's like, but it's like everything about the video like felt right about that being coming out video. And then when it gets to and like it makes sense, and then all the rebranding, because we had seen that she had switched her name and an icon and stuff. So it was like, we're pretty sure, because it all fits and it makes sense now. But I guess it's so scary sometimes when it's just like, you see something as a fixture and it changes, and like, especially being a content creator, it's almost like television or something. And there's like a level of being authentic, but there's also like, you know, you choose what you want to see, or what you want your audience to see. Like, this is like our 4th time trying to record this, and this isn't scripted, but there's something about the way that we're thinking right now that like we keep leaving out certain details in one take and not in another, and we're not trying to do a lot of editing and combining them. And it's just easier to start over a bunch of times. And we didn't feel that bad about being a little bit perfectionizing it, because we're just kind of throwing it up. We might throw some pictures on here or make a thumbnail, but other than that, we're not doing a lot, so it can just be out, especially because we are working on a much more ambitious video than last week. I guess just like every week. And we knew that we weren't going to be able to put a lot of effort into a second video this week, because we do try to, if we can, get a second video out that is somewhat helpful for us, making some strides in learning about you know, the technology or editing or something. Ooh, show one. And this time we're learning how to freaking use our capture card and how that all works. And that's been cool. That's what we've been focusing on most of today, other than writing our very emotional script. I guess all our scripts are very emotional. Oh, so how we got introduced to Digine's content was through another anituber. I forget his name, but he's one of like the Canadian ones. And there was this video about like how Sword Art Online sucks and all these things. And we remember feeling really salty, because it was like, oh, I really like Sword Art Online to the point where it hurts me to hear someone like deride it so much. But then it was like, actually, these are really good points. It still hurts me, but it can't like, I can't cover my ears about it. And we really like analysis, and we really like being critical of things that we like. So the only difference between that and something that we're open to, like, that we're more open, at least recently, to interpreting in a way that's like less than flattering, like The Last of Us, for example. But at the time, because we had romanticized it so much, it was like, and I guess getting used to it on the internet has been hard, especially because like other forms of validation uh, are commonly criticized, like gender, like being a furry, or something like that, and it's something you always have to think about when you talk to people. I mean, not everyone worries about that or has to necessarily. There's our little music area. Oh, that's a big fishy. But I guess like having our feelings hurt the way that we did had made us like even more apprehensive because like, oh, like, I know there's definitely a type of internet personality that's more aimed towards like very like aggressively or strongly negative criticism, like the angry gamer or whatnot, like something that's very emotionally charged. And sometimes you just want something soft and nice, or something like deliberate, sure, but not exactly mean. And because that was the side of their content that we saw, it was what it was until we saw like the autism videos. That's what we thought she generally made. Other than obviously we seen other exceptions, like when we found out about like how she makes content. Literally, it was a video of her pacing back and forth at her house, and it was like, oh wow, you made pacing into a video. Like as an autistic person, like we just happen to also pace a lot when we think and are like processing ideas and like finding all these different ways to like make different kinds of engaging content is like really creative, and as we hadn't really thought as critically about that before until we started making content regularly, and now we're kind of being challenged by that. And this timing was really interesting considering this Sunday is our first anime analysis, and we definitely want to put more attention into the anime side of our content because we focus on video games so hard, because through the Twitch and stuff it's been really accessible, and it's stuff that we've been like particularly passionate about, especially recently because it's been a lot of recent stuff. We're really happy that we were able to already be working on content for a little bit when we blew up the way we did, so that we had a little bit of practice time, because even though for the whole time of like trying to grow an audience has been like technically a long time since starting this channel, has been like relatively short, and it's not bad to ask for help. And like there was the opportunity, it was like, hey, if you know you're black and you make leftist content, eyeball zone. And it's like, oh, see the tweet on Twitter, hey, I just sent the email since you just said the thing about it, because it wasn't mentioned in a video as far as I know. It was just something that happened on Twitter, and we just happen to live on Twitter. And so that just small little interaction is like, oh, and that's how things are like this now. And that's really awesome, and we want to uplift other folks too, and we're glad that conversations through our comments and stuff have been so well thought out and interesting and like emotionally resonant. Like, thank you for watching our content, communicating with us, and helping us to understand how we can be better and how we can help other folks understand more about themselves too. I'm not sure if there's anything else to really say. Actually, um, this felt really easy in a way. Thanks for giving us your time. We did just release a Patreon. We'll have a link in the description if you want to support us in that way. We're still gonna make content either way, obviously, but we're still figuring out just how much we want to do, and we're getting more serious every week apparently, so might as well keep failing upwards, you know? This is Fluff Bytes, all you big and little bites out there. Have a good night. Fluff Bite out.